cheese and peanut butter and jelly and bacon. Elvis and Priscilla, two concepts that have gone together since time immemorial, are specifically 1958 at least. Tonight we're talking about two recent biopics about these two 20th century American cultural icons. Baz Luhrmann's Fever Dream Elvis biopic from last year, starring Austin Butler as the king and Tom Hanks as a big pervert, and the just released Priscilla, directed by Sofia Coppola, a cold nightmare starring Kaylee Spaney as Priscilla and Jacob Elordi as Elvis. I am your wicked game master, Connor Lloyd Crews. We have a secondary topic, but it's kind of clickbaity, so I didn't want to introduce it all wild. Like, they're not really opposing films, but whatever.
Do the clickbait for the titles.
Yeah, I got to do the clickbait for the titles. My boss told me. But I'm Connor Lloyd Crews, wicked game master. The Joey Chestnut of Talking About Movies is not here this week. He is abroad on a mission constructing houses of the holy for less fortunate, and so I want to congratulate him on pursuing his spiritual road. But also,
very accurate description.
Also joining us tonight.
What's up, guys? It's Brian. How are you?
Whoop.
Hey, what's going on? I'm Scott. Good to see you.
And
hey, everyone. Alex here.
Thanks for joining, guys. Panel. Time to talk turkey. Because it's November. I want to give a shout out. I got a weird energy tonight. But hey, whatever. I want to give a shout out to Marina Sakamoto and her band Shunkin for the use of their song Curse off of the EP She Nods for our opening. And let's get one of these going. It's been 0 days since the strike ended, but hey, I've got to say the AMPTP still sucks and could suck and fucking eat my shorts any goddamn day of the week.
We're getting progress, at least. It seems like
yeah,
finally almost there. So let's get working.
So that's exciting. Like that happened literally like hours ago.
Yeah.
And so very, very, very cool. Let's start by talking. Here's Tom Hanks and Jiminy Glick. Which is one of the I feel like Tom Hanks based his performance in Elvis on Jiminy Glick and Danny DeVito's The Penguin.
That's fair. That was what was watched. That was his research.
But yeah, who wants to give us the plot to the film Elvis? I guess the plot and the vibe and stuff. Alex, why don't you tell us all about Elvis?
Sure, yeah. I mean, it's an account of his life from like boyhood into, the end of his life, but it's focuses also on his manager, Colonel Tom Parker, who's the Tom Hanks character, and kind of how deceptive of a relationship they had. So it's like a biopic, but it's also kind of like a sort of look into that. It's like the narrative is driven around that. His perspective is framed from that viewpoint.
Yeah, I was kind of mentioning this before with Brian about how in some ways neither of these movies are really from Elvis's point of view. In certain ways. Like Elvis itself is sort of presented as that, but it's really kind of this almost like hagiography being like transcribed by Colonel Tom Parker. And
I forgot like how it started, but it's like his fever dream as he's dying.
yeah.
It's an insane opening. I just was like, what fucking movie are we about to see?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
No
I mean,
idea.
it's a Baz
That was all I
Luhrmann
know,
movie. Like that's the big
Yeah.
thing, and I'm not super familiar with his work. I think I would like a lot of it actually because I tend to like very hyper style, kind of like super cinematic. Say what you will about the actual effect of it. There is like a madness to it. Even when there's things in it that I think come off as a little crass, it's almost like it. I will say this. I wonder how I'll think about some of his other movies because this one gets away with a little bit of it because it's from the point of view of Tom Hanks's character, who's this like con man carnival barker. So the idea of the narrative kind of being framed in that extravagant like way works. But I'm you know,
it's interesting. Like what I would say about like his visual style, which is like, you're right, it doesn't always work because I didn't think it totally worked for Great Gatsby, which just seemed to be like using that as an excuse to do like 3D because that movie was in 3D. And it seemed like he was like just using the framework of, oh, I can make the Great Gatsby with Leonardo DiCaprio. If I make that movie, I will get money to be able to make a 3D thing. And so I don't think it quite worked that well. It's funny watching this movie, especially the first time I saw it, I was like, this movie practically is in 3D. It just doesn't. And I think it works a lot. I did not see Australia. The movie that really started his like wild visual like language, I think, is Moulin Rouge, and I think it works very well there. You know, there's a little bit of it in Romeo and Juliet, but Romeo and Juliet just seems more like hyper than necessarily like unreality, the way that his later films do. I would say Moulin Rouge is the start of it, which works very well, like I said. And then, like, sometimes it kind of becomes a parody of itself. Watching this one again, I was like, no, I think it kind of really comes together, this one. I think it, and you know, I remember that beginning because I felt the same way too, Brian, when we saw it together. But I remember thinking, just because I knew enough about like Baz Luhrmann stuff, where it's like, there's no way this whole movie is going to be this way. And it does like calm down pretty quickly into like, okay, we're in reality again, and we're gonna get to those parts. I do love like that. What a bet! And then
Tom Hanks hosting the movie from an ethereal casino, like he's the crypt keeper, making like commenting on the movie, making jokes.
Which I don't know. I guess in a way, I felt it worked for it being the story of Elvis's life. You know, like I don't necessarily need a straight version of that story. And especially like we said, coming from the Colonel's fever dream, like it worked. Like that's why I also thought Tom Hanks' performance in this movie is phenomenal.
I love it.
There's people who don't think it's like think it's over the top or whatever. Or even like the Colonel doesn't sound like that. He didn't really look like that. And I just remember thinking like it's accurate. It's accurate for this movie. It's what this movie does.
It makes sense for this movie.
It's exactly the part that he needed to play for this part, and I hope Tom Hanks takes more weird ass crazy roles.
I was thinking the exact same thing. I was like, I want to see Tom Hanks in big weirdo mode, like that, because this is like an all time weirdo performance. I had a GIF on the opening of this of like when he's like seeing Elvis for the first time, and he's like looking through the slats of the thing, like Or I like that opening scene. Where he's like
just
white,
cupped out, ready for it.
Obviously, it would have ruined the whole movie, but I kept wishing that Priscilla would have found a cameo for Tom Hanks to just show up. Even just to be like, why won't he sing the Santa Claus song? And like, yeah! A bit Avengers style or something. Like the audience, trust me, we would have flipped. We would have all loved it. It would have been perfect.
Go ahead.
Well, as far as my thoughts of this, one thing I want to preface, because you guys know I was not a fan of this movie, but I'm also not a fan of Baz Luhrmann. So I'm not going to sit here and try to like shit on a movie that like I know going in I'm not into. That's the thing. If we compare what we're talking about today with Priscilla and Elvis, like just taking three things alone, not even like direction, script, or performances, but for me, just the way it looked, the way it was cut, and the music that supported it. For me, Priscilla's infinitely better because everything, for those three things alone, I did not dig Elvis at all. But I know Austin Butler, he did a great performance. There's a lot of stuff that is really good, but stylistically, it's just not for me because I'm not a Baz Luhrmann guy, at least in this later iteration of what he's making.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
So
that makes total
that's where I'll
sense.
leave myself with it.
Yeah.
That makes sense for sure. Yeah.
No,
I
I
just think
understand.
it's just stupid to shit on a movie because that's what I could essentially be doing. But it's like if I already know it's not it's nothing I'm going to resonate to. Like,
If it wasn't on your wavelength, I get it. It's the same way when I see Wes Anderson films, and they're on my wavelength. But I was like, oh yeah, if this is not like your particular thing,
For sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel about this.
Yeah, I felt that way when I saw that Ennie's Man movie, where it's just like, I get why people like this and appreciate this. Like, I can't necessarily say this movie's a piece of shit, but I am not enjoying it at all.
But you know enough as film lovers, and I think that's a perspective we can have when it's like we can step back and go like, look, I'm all to have a debate about something, but if it's just one of those where I know right away this isn't my vibe, what am I really debating with? You know, because that's stupid.
It's like when I started seeing my Big Fat Greek Wedding 3 trailers in front of movies like earlier this year, and I was like, I'm not interested in this, but I'm excited for my mom to see this. And she didn't end up liking it very much, though, unfortunately. So sorry, it's a thumbs down.
Oh man,
get fucked.
But it's funny that, Brian, that you say that, because I kind of, going into Elvis, was the same as you. I'm like, I'm not a Luhrmann guy, but it was actually the movie that converted me and made me appreciate like his older stuff more. I was like, okay, I get it now. Yeah. But
and that's cool because I know he's a competent filmmaker. That's the thing. You know, it's not like we've watched enough non-competent filmmakers where you know what that looks like.
Yeah.
But, you know, so that's why it's like, and I appreciate that about stylized filmmakers because they're so stuck to what their vision of something is that, you know, good on him for that, for sure. But that's dope that you had that reaction, for sure.
Yeah. And it made me want to go back. I watched Great Gatsby again and liked it a lot more than the first time I saw it. Same thing.
I gotta check that one out again.
Cool.
I bet you I would too. It's a lot, but yeah.
I had 2 reviews I wanted to
be
share for Elvis. One from the guest on the show, Al Vanderclip, which he gave it only a 1.5 stars, but his review is terrible, but at least has the decency to be completely deranged.
He gets it, at least. You get it.
And then I love Dan McCoy from the Flophouse gave it 3.5 stars and says, this movie exists beyond your prosaic ideas of good and bad. And yeah, I think one thing we should mention, because you were bringing it up, Brian, is the way, probably the thing that's, I appreciate the effort. It's a little like, it's probably whitewashy in a way, but like the way the movie tries to incorporate like modern hip hop and stuff, my read of it is it's like kind of, because behind the like spectacle of it all and behind the emotional relationship between Elvis and Colonel Tom Parker, the other sort of major thing in the movie is Elvis's like relationship with these black artists back in the day. And the movie definitely frames it very positively for Elvis.
For sure.
To the point that it's probably like you're watching it and you're like, like I have no idea. I don't know. I looked into it.
It's insane how modern his views were.
Yeah.
They fit exactly with the viewpoint of people in 2022. That's what a coincidence.
Yeah. But
the modern music, that's a Baz thing that he's done.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. That was the big thing. Yeah. I mean, like, and he's had some winners. I mean, like Radiohead with Romeo and Juliet. I mean, that was huge, you know. And then Jay-Z, I know, was the big one with Great Gatsby.
Yeah, and Lana Del Rey.
And that's my thing. Like, I'm cool with the way he wanted to do it. Just make it good. I just didn't think any of that was good. Like, I think when I'm hearing, that's the one I'm gonna yell about, and I don't care, because then just make shit good. And when I'm hearing like some of the mumble rap, you're like, what creative decisions would you think this is going to be good? All for like when and time and place for certain styles. But I just felt like, who the fuck is listening to this and going, yeah, this is great.
Yeah, totally.
So, you know, I just thought the music was atrocious.
Go off, King.
Ruined it. The music is the one that I'll die on, because you guys know, as a sound person, I listen to everything first, and like for me, it's just that is so far off, I can't even get beyond anything else.
What about some of the more straightforward performances in the movie? Because I was going to say my two favorite scenes in the movie are two performances. It's the If I Can Dream performance from the 68 special, which is pretty not messed with, and the That's All Right in Vegas performance, which is kind of montagey, but is still like pretty straightforward in terms of its composition.
I think the straightforward, and that's the thing, the straightforward stuff was good. I think it was when they were swinging for the fences, they just didn't hit right. Like, I mean, there's great ways you can incorporate other styles, modern everything, different sounds. It just didn't land for me anyways.
But I do love those two sequences. Like those two, I remember like watching it the other night, starting it like way later than I should have. And like I got to a certain point in the movie and I was like, am I really going to stop it before the 68, the special performance? And I was like, no. And then like the Vegas performance is like only like 30 minutes after that. And so it's like, I watched 2/3 of it when I watched Priscilla, and then I watched the last third of Elvis.
Oh, interesting. That's wild. You kind of did a good timeline with that.
I was thinking that might actually be the way to do it.
Yeah.
The full
program
Elvis
a show like that, like double at a rep theater, interrupt
that would be
Elvis
wild.
Show. Yeah.
Especially just going filmmaking styles from the way things look from Sofia Coppola, who's obviously got very, very specific shot styles, cutting styles, performance pieces. That would be a jarring, funny experience. I'd love to do it though. That would be a fun double feature on like a random night.
Yeah,
cut that shit up.
Yeah, I was going to bring up, because I was specifically, when I was rewatching Elvis, I was taking note of all, because Priscilla is not a huge part of the Elvis movie. I would say
No.
She is there, and she has like kind of 2 or 3 major scenes, but largely she kind of exists in the sort of chorus of the Memphis Mafia that is surrounding Elvis for a lot of the movie. She's a more important member of it because she's the one he kisses, but I literally wrote there's like a little moment of her being jealous of fans. We see him cheating. We see her leave him while he's in his hotel room in Vegas, which is set. It's in Vegas and Priscilla, but it's in Graceland and Elvis. Like that's like probably the biggest overlap, as we see that scene in both movies. And the scenes play out pretty not totally differently. I mean, they're both essentially like her kind of walking in on Elvis strung out. Her reasoning is different. In Elvis, she seems to mostly be concerned about his like drug use and health. In Priscilla, it's more, obviously like
her world.
I gotta get the fuck out of here.
This fucking sucks.
I need a fucking life. Enough of this shit.
What the fuck? Also, maybe don't do so many drugs.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And by the way, relax on the pills, bro.
Yeah.
I will say there's two things that are very direct overlap, which is she has a line in that scene, "You won't even make love to me anymore," which is like a kind of feels like a major part of Priscilla as it goes on, is like his sort of reluctance to actually engage in sexual intercourse with her, which is kind of interesting. And then lastly, they both in those scenes imply that if she doesn't do this now, she'll never do it. They both have a line that's essentially the same, like that. But that's like the only major scene of Priscilla, I would say, in Elvis. Even the scene where she's introduced is like kind of part of a montage of like him going to war, Oh
yeah. I mean that hotel room, I think I remember that was the biggest interaction they really did have, for sure.
Yeah,
But
it's almost like it's so unrealistic. Like, it's almost like the movie is telling you, like, we're looking at this through rose-colored glasses. Like, we all know Elvis is a bad guy, but that's not this movie. That's another movie.
I don't even think they were saying that we all know Elvis is a bad guy.
Well,
though.
sure,
I think,
maybe not.
I don't think they just like, we're not going to talk about this. This is not.
Yeah.
We're going to bring Elvis, like Elvis and Priscilla, is because you all know the love story. Priscilla was his love. So we have to include her, but like in the movie, there is like one line about how like maybe we'll see each other again in 10 years when you'll be 24 and I'll be 34. And I remember like it's just one of those things where like you have to do the math yourself because we met each other. Because it's like we met each other 10 years ago, but maybe in 10 years when I'm 34 and you're 24, and I feel like you should just like turn to the camera and be like, sorry, and then, because it is just kind of like we're just. Which is why this movie is not embraced by like the Elvis estate. They Priscilla. That's what I would. That one.
Because it's interesting. Because there, I would say that the second biggest scene that Priscilla has in Elvis is a little later when she in one of the last scenes of the movie is in at the airport and tries to get him to go to rehab. And it's worth noting. I noticed this that because Priscilla. And we'll talk about this in the movie. Priscilla doesn't present it as the movie, nor do I think that the real person thought it this way. It wasn't a totally one-sided thing. Like, she had a lot of affection for him, and I noted that I got this from Wikipedia, which is interesting. In September 1978, shortly after the first anniversary of Presley's death, Tom Parker arranged a fan festival called Always Elvis, where he, Vernon, Elvis's dad, and Priscilla dedicated a bronze statue of him in the lobby of the Las Vegas Hilton. And so it's just interesting because like it is a very complicated relationship.
Well, I mean, it came off as complicated in the movie.
For sure.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, Priscilla just like obviously just enhances that times a million with just a separate life factor that they really did have in a lot of ways. As much as they were together and connected, they just had that separation.
But yeah, I had a couple little more thoughts about Elvis. If anyone else has some final Elvis thoughts. I mean,
we haven't discussed him much, and I think that's actually maybe one of the issues with the movie Elvis. Austin Butler is incredible in this movie.
He's great. He's the best part of that movie.
Yeah,
other than Tom Hanks, for sure.
But it's like his performance is almost so like straight that like it's easy to like forget how amazing, how really brilliant he is, because there's like so much like stuff and fanfare happening around him that you could take that exact same performance and put it in like a straight version of this story,
sure,
and it wouldn't change that much. Like,
no, I mean, I probably would have obviously liked it just stylistically, but that performance is the standout. That's absolutely the standout.
Yeah, he is absolutely incredible in this movie.
He does get across, there's like a real tragedy to like what's going on here. The Colonel, especially as it goes on, is treating him like a pig. He's like both figuratively and literally by the end trying to fatten up. And that scene towards the end of the movie of Elvis just like closing the curtains and like making his hotel room in Vegas like a tomb essentially is kind of devastating. When I watched it, I was like, whoa.
Yeah. And
as is the final ending of him playing the piano.
Oh my God! I mean, but that's the actual performance too.
Yeah, it cuts to it. Yeah,
live, that was the most incredible part to me. Like when that cuts it, like just and then finally, like that I felt was the best part in the just filmmaking aspect from like the live action to the actual scene. It was just a nice, good ode, like that final moment, because that performance was, my brother was a big Elvis guy, but I kind of a very surface level. But that was, he even told how pivotal a moment that performance was. So to kind of end on that was cool for sure.
I will
Yeah,
say
my grandma was a big Elvis guy, so I was familiar with him and just like the legend of Elvis. But like when you watch the movie, you realize it's only about 15 years. It's just one of those things where it's like, he should have lasted 50 years. You know, he would only be in about his 80s now, but like we should have gone to like Elvis the final performance, you know, in Vegas or something. You know, like it's just a shame that like they just
had he not been treated that way, and had he actually been treated like, you know, even the way like talent is treated today, you know, which isn't necessarily good, a hell of a lot better than he got. Imagine just that longevity of somebody who's like, hey, even if you're like, you can party a little bit, but let's kind of control you with a little, you know, green juice every once in a while. I don't know, just it would have helped something for sure.
You can have one of those fool's gold loaves every once in a while, but you can't be having multiple of them, which, by the way, I was thinking about that a lot while watching both of these movies again, and I was like, man, that sandwich sounds fucking great. Do you guys know specifically about the fool's gold loaf? That thing?
Is that the
banana peanut butter?
Yeah.
It's not banana. It's banana.
It isn't banana, huh? I know bacon is a part of it as well.
Well, so the Elvis sandwich that has been like adapted from it in the same way that like Italian American food is like an adaptation of it. The Elvis sandwich that is like banana, bacon, and peanut butter is like an adaptation of the Fool's Gold Loaf, which is a sandwich made by the Colorado Mine Company, a restaurant in Denver. It consists of a single warmed, hollowed out loaf of bread filled with the contents of 1 jar of creamy peanut butter, 1 jar of grape jelly, and 1 pound of bacon. And
oh my god, what the fuck?
And there's
what? That sounds worth dying on the toilet for.
Yeah, no, I mean, no, you know, I got to be honest. That to me, if you got to pick your poison, that's just the peanut butter and jelly. That is so much. Like I'm just thinking about how much that would. Oh man,
I want to try it at least once. I may not eat the whole thing, but like you get one to share. But there's like a story. This is from Wikipedia, from a book by David Adler, night of February 1st, 1976. So Elvis Presley was at home in Graceland in Memphis entertaining Captain Jerry Kennedy of the Denver Police Department and Ron Fresho of Colorado's Strike Force Against Crime. The three began discussing the sandwich, and Presley decided he wanted one right then. Presley had been to the restaurant before while in Denver. Kennedy and Beatrice, this other name, were friends of the owner, so they were driven to the Memphis airport and boarded Presley's private Conair jet, the Lisa Marie, and flew 2 hours to Denver. When they arrived at Stapleton International Airport at 1:40 a.m., the plane taxied to a special hangar where the passengers were greeted by Buck Scott, great name, the owner of the Colorado Mine Company, and his wife Cindy, who had brought 22 fresh fooled gold loaves for the men. They spent 2 hours in the hangar eating the sandwiches, washing them down with Perrier and champagne. I
mean, that's King Stoner shit right there.
And they never even left the airport.
You don't get another level than that.
Yeah, that's an incredible story.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
honestly, they should have put that in the movie. I would have been so into that sequence.
The problem is,
imagine the Perrier, everything's all over the place.
They should have put that in both movies, honestly.
Well, that's what I'm saying is you make a movie called Fat Elvis with me. Oh, I can do it. You know what I mean? Like, and it's about those last couple of years about him being the coolest, fattest man on earth.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to be fair, he went out on his own. He did go out pretty big. I mean, sure, would have been great to have until the 80s.
So to speak.
I love that version of just like, you have to have seen both Priscilla and Elvis to really know what's going on in this movie.
Yeah.
The ultimate trifecta.
Well, there's also the John Carpenter Elvis that I've never seen.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
This is like the Elvis Apocalypse trilogy. This will be the new version of it. These three.
But that one's like 3 hours, so who knows? Maybe they do have something like that in the movie.
There's plenty of time for sandwiches.
That's wild.
Yeah, I want to check that out. But let's move on to Priscilla. I have this in the background. Brian,
yeah, just explain this.
Yeah, there's a sequence in the movie, probably the thing that made me like laugh.
Okay.
Because there's a couple of scenes in the movie. For the most part, Priscilla's kind of a nightmare. But there's a couple of sequences that are pretty funny. And maybe the funniest is when they talk about some like house that they have nearby, and then it cuts to like Elvis putting on a helmet and getting in a bulldozer and like with all his buddies who are like out there drinking and I'm just thinking of it like it's like Viva La Bam, but with Elvis, and it's like Vernon. I started thinking about Vernon trying to take a shit and like Elvis coming in and like slapping him and stuff.
He's like Phil. He's like Phil,
I just
basically
when he put the helmet on, I just want to be like, hey, I'm Elvis Presley. Welcome to Jackass.
Oh, for sure.
Well, the other connection there is Spike Jonze because he's in the Jackass crew.
Yeah, that's true.
Sofia's ex-husband.
True. I definitely felt that even about the crew. Like even every time, like and a little jump ahead, but like even every interaction that like Priscilla would have with them, I was like, I'm kind of a little nervous for her.
Yeah.
Like these guys they had energy of like Jackass guys. Like we're gonna fuck shit up at any point in time, and that was the interesting take on it.
Whenever they had guns.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, that was just wild.
And they had guns a lot. Yeah.
And when she's gifted it, like I think that was the most touching thing for her in the entire movie was getting that first gun.
Yeah.
I don't know why. She was.
I got that just the gun culture of the South or whatever.
Well, no,
but,
for sure.
And that's honestly, that's the only thing that made me feel like safe with them having guns is like, well, these guys are like that comfortable with guns that they can be jackasses and guns. But it's just like, it's still like
they were controlled. It wasn't like full debauchery crew, but you definitely had energy of Jackass for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, listen, as far as I'm concerned, Elvis, he got her a gun, he got her a dog. All good in my book.
Oh, not only did he get her a gun, he got her a gun to match each dress she had.
That's probably the funniest moment in the movie.
Yeah, definitely.
Who wants to give a summary of Priscilla, Brian or Scott?
The summary is Elvis, you a creep.
Yeah.
For sure.
Damn, Elvis.
It is
established early. Elvis is a creep.
Its timeline is completely. What's interesting is it does kind of fit within Elvis, where like its timeline is totally within the confines of Elvis. We see like the first scenes of Priscilla are like an hour into Elvis, you know, and the last scenes of Priscilla are like a half hour before the end of Elvis.
To give a better description of the movie, it's essentially Priscilla's story.
It's a coming of age Priscilla story.
Yeah, her side of the relationship, and like, it's fascinating because like it's not judgmental, but it's just like this is what happened. Where's the line?
Right.
You know, like the opening shot of her just by herself at the counter, and you're just like, this is a child.
Yeah.
This is not some young woman who fell in love and is his wife. This is a kid. This is a child. And
they cast that really well, and like in that because it was it's kid. What's Kaylee Spaney is her name?
I think so. Yeah.
She did. Yeah, she did such a great job. It teetered that line of like she knew how to play into being an adult, but also like that the adolescence was there. That so much so that whenever you'd see another woman character, there was a clear difference of like she's a girl, and I think it was called out like one of those women as well
at the beginning. It's like, oh, she's like a little girl.
Yeah. She's a little girl. Yeah, I mean,
I was going to bring up the fact that I specifically talked to both of my parents about they're born in 51 and 54, and I talked to them about like perceptions, because you hear now that somebody is 10 years older than a ninth grader that he's dating, and it's like to jail. He goes to prison.
Yeah.
He's kicked in the balls so hard. He makes like Tom and Jerry noises. But I was talking to them, and they basically said that at the time it would have been seen as weird because the age thing would have been seen as weird, and then also the fact that Elvis is so famous. But and this is kind of evidenced by the fact that nothing really did happen. It did not. It was like everyone was like, well, whatever.
That's whatever it is. Yeah. It's Elvis. He's fine. I mean, it's Elvis, you know.
I'd love to say we've gotten better since then.
Yeah.
But like Like I'm just. What was crazy about this movie is what I thought was brilliant is while Elvis, the movie, was all about the spectacle of Elvis, this movie very much stripped that away. And actually, one of the best reviews I read was from a writer named Katie Delaney, former writer for Rick and Morty. She's big on Twitter, but she mentioned how like only Sofia Coppola could make Elvis Presley seem like every musician that lives in Silver Lake who thinks he read a book for the first time. And it's like, like this movie was just about Elvis having a child bride, and like honestly it made me think of Dane Cook, of just how like he had this younger wife and how like, oh, they're married and they're happy, and it's like, I bet you there's a lot of times that she's just at his house.
That's like one of the most interesting things is because like the Elvis is not completely presented as like a total son of a bitch, and largely speaking through a lot of the movie she does seem to be happier when he's there, even when like the relationship is rocky, because when he's not there she's essentially just in Graceland, like it's a prison. Miserable. It's a prison. It's very strange watching the two movies and seeing those sets, because in Elvis it comes across as a very warm like set. This is the house he built for his mom, and then in Priscilla it feels clinical and like a museum that she's like being told to wander around in until her dad comes to get her. I mean, well, even down, remember she's trying to play with the little dog on the front, and she gets yelled at for how you can't just be doing whatever you think you can do. We have an image to uphold, that kind of thing. And that's clear. The prison vibe was really, it almost reminded me in a weird way of Spencer, and the way that approach was, where it was sort of like that, like we're just focusing on like, because the mundane is the most terrifying shit. And that's where the real trauma of the scenario is. It isn't like an action-filled, shit's happening, like I'm getting beat up. It's just every moment in between of what like anything is. I think that's the heavier side, and we see that in both kind of films.
I remember talking to people about this movie, and it's like it'd be very easy for people to say nothing happens in this movie. Like not to sound so pretentious, but the unenlightened to say like this movie was boring, nothing happened. And it's like, it's not very plotty. Like, we don't have to give just spoilers because it's not like but it's just like you're just watching this thing going like But what I thought was interesting too was that like the filmmaking wasn't judgmental, far less judgmental than in Elvis, which like
I expected it to be way worse based on the initial like it's a hate movie again. Like I thought it was going to be really on the nose.
No,
it was not.
But it's just sort of like this is what happened. Like
the movie genuinely makes a good case as to why he would at the very least have had a friendship and been fond of her in Germany in the context of he's this, because like especially when you think of it from Elvis's point of view, he's 24. Like this is fucking, and he's at war, and he's the most famous person on earth, and his mom just died, and he hasn't seen a single. There's been like nobody around him who's from like the South or whatever, like can commiserate with that experience, and suddenly this person shows up who can. I can see how that would be very like appealing, even just from like keeping a friendship. Obviously it immediately crosses the line when it becomes romantic or sexual, but you understand from his point of view fully. Like I get why he would have affection for this person, but it should have been more like a older brother, older sister thing.
It's a shame just that like he couldn't have found a Priscilla his age.
Right.
Like, I think
Priscilla's mom even said that. Like, can he find a Priscilla his own age? I think verbatim was the line.
But I just mean like someone who like loved him as much. Like, I think there was a general like relationship there, and she like got him. Even in like my favorite scene was like it was sort of a dual scene. Is like in the beginning when he like threatens to send her home, and how much that crushes her, and then later in the movie when like again he's like, oh, I think we need some time off, and she's just kind of like, just tell me when to leave.
She walked out.
She's like, go ahead. And then like you just hear him going like, wait, no.
The callback of like you called my bluff.
It's just like okay, like at this point she's like, I get this game, I understand.
I'm good with this shit.
And like I think that's sort of like the start of her figuring out, just like, oh, I don't need this, because I do think the beginning of the movie was better than the ending of the movie. Like,
the middle is the roughest part for sure. It just kind of wanders a little bit too much in the particular timeline that we're in. I get there's a lot of importance because of moving to how she comes up with those decisions, but it did feel like we kind of sat in it a little too long, because I would have rather had a little bit more at the end.
Yeah,
having not have. Oh, sorry.
Well, I was going to say, I think it's interesting. I would have loved to see in a movie that explores their, like, just the fact how, like, Elvis was a prisoner, but somehow kind of had a prisoner of his own.
Yeah.
Like, I wish
it's that saying alone with everybody.
Yeah.
You know, like, I think no matter what he got around, and I think she was probably the only one who kind of got that on the most level that they could have. But at the end of the day, it's almost like getting that drug fix. You know, it didn't work after a while.
Because even like her, like, I have to leave because of your drug use in Elvis, and her just I have to leave because it's fucked up in this. Like, I think it's a little bit of both, and like we know what's happening in Priscilla, and it's like it's interesting how like she being Sofia Coppola plays it, where it's like we're happy she's getting out, but we understand the situation is tragic. Like, oh, she's able to escape because he is now quite like, it's like, oh, he's absolutely trapped. He is not getting out of this, and he's weak enough that she can escape him. And I think she's aware of that.
Yeah.
Like I know what's happening to you. I can leave.
And it's kind of why the movies are an interesting like pairing in that way, because it is this. It's I used this phrase talking to Brian earlier. It's a turducken of exploitation. It's like this multi-layered, like, people exploiting people, you know. And I mean, I would even argue that there's moments in Priscilla that don't entirely let Priscilla off the hook, where she like has Lisa Marie and she's like, here you go, nanny. Like, I'm gonna ignore you now.
Oh yeah. I don't. Yeah.
And so, like, I think there's even a connection there to be made. So, like,
because I know this is based on her book, and you know, I think she was an executive producer. So obviously, narratively, like, you know, they probably coasted that line together.
Yeah,
I would say, as a 14-year-old, I would have 100% been 24-year-old Kirsten Dunst's house husband.
No, I did that math too, and I remember and so I figured out, like, it would have been Allison Hannigan for me. So I was thinking, like, yeah, you know what? If I was watching Buffy and I went to some like fanfare, and Willow came up to me and she was like, "Hey, you gotta come back to my place." I'm like, "Yeah, it's fine, Mom. We're basically the same age. We're the same."
She's in Spider-Man.
Connor, it's funny that you mentioned Kirsten Dunst too, because I was going to say, having not seen Priscilla, it sounds like, just based on kind of what you guys have been saying in this episode, that it sounds a lot like, kind of more like Marie Antoinette.
Very much, and not only that, this movie is, and I mean this in a good way, like peak Sofia Coppola. It felt like a Sofia Coppola movie in the best way, where it was just like to the point where I remember thinking, like, I bet she's had this relationship. Maybe not to like the extent of fame or the age gap, but like some guy who kind of wanted her around when he wanted her around, and then did his thing otherwise. It's like, yeah, there's no way she hasn't had some form of this relationship.
Because Marie Antoinette is like, she's, you know, the Dauphine, she's like the queen or whatever, not the queen, but she's like the royalty. But it is kind of like she's a child and she's trapped in this like gilded cage.
In fact, I think this movie does that better, because the first time I saw Marie Antoinette, I didn't quite get how young they were supposed to be at the beginning, just because it's Kirsten Dunst and Jason Schwartzman, who are both older than me. So it's hard for me to be like, they're playing children right now. They're actually 15 at this moment. Where like I said, that first shot of her sitting there, it's like, oh, this is the story of a kid. I really liked it. I'm a fan of hers. I haven't seen everything she's done. I've seen most. I haven't seen Somewhere, and I haven't seen the one she did just before this on Apple.
I really like Somewhere. Yeah, On the Rocks. I mean, I really enjoyed this much more than On the Rocks.
Okay.
But I actually really did like Somewhere. It's one of those I've actually been thinking about for one of our Mondays sometime. Or just
Somewhere.
the quirkiness of it, because
It's really good, yeah.
I remember it like came out like I think the year close to when I first moved here, and there's a lot of shots that are right around, locally, and it kind of marked out to it.
It's got Chris Pontius.
That's right, yeah.
Oh yeah, all right. I'm in. That's all you had to say.
He's actually
Stephen Dorff as well.
Yeah, I know. He's
it's your main.
Isn't Chris Pontius like third build technically?
He's like a fairly sizable role in the movie. Yeah.
Like he's one of the main supporting characters besides the two leads.
Yeah.
But yeah, you want to move on to the tertiary topic?
And I will just say real quick, because we did mark out so hard to Austin Butler, I will say that Jacob Elordi was really good at what he was given.
Yes.
I thought playing Elvis, like I there was definitely I read a few reviews where it was just throwing him so much. And I thought for what his character was supposed to be doing, and he was meant to be sort of a shadow of himself in a lot of ways, because you're not getting a point of view from like him, or even, it wasn't Elvis. And I thought that he was very effective in what he did with that.
Yeah, I think
he worked for the role perfectly, I thought.
Yeah, well, and it's kind of a difference, like, not to simplify it, but it's the difference between an antagonist and a protagonist performance in certain ways between the two. And what they're doing is very different. But I think that both performances neither feel like caricature, which I feel like could be really easy with Elvis. Yeah. Extraordinarily easy with Elvis.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it's like the biggest impersonator, isn't he? Isn't he like of all the impersonators?
I'm sure.
That's right.
So it's like one of those that honestly, like, you can make it so hokey so easily.
And so I thought that they did a good job. I mean, honestly, talking about like funny moments from Priscilla, that moment also where he's like, if you don't have my understanding of my interest in philosophies, this is not going to work, or whatever that line was. It was hilarious.
Yeah, it was great. He was so like, every hill he wanted to die on was kind of funny, because you're like, come on, Elvis, just give it a few weeks, you'll be onto something else.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to like him burning the philosophy books.
Well, because wasn't it a conversation like with the colonel, with her dad, with the colonel, and he was just saying something about like, oh yeah, I won't let this distraction happen. It was just a distraction. Then cut to like burning of the books, and it was just a funny, weird sequence.
Yeah. I saw Saltburn at Beyond Fest. Yeah, he was in that, and honestly, I didn't realize it was him playing Elvis until the credits rolled. I didn't know who it was.
Same.
And then I was like, oh shit. So yeah, I thought he was great.
Yeah,
because he really kills it in Saltburn. Like, Saltburn is a wild as fuck movie, and I actually can't wait to see it.
Somewhat similar role.
Somewhat similar, but still, like, just because of how unhinged everything is.
Yeah. I mean, just in like.
But I'm into
like
it.
Philosophically, you could see like. Yeah. But also again, I did not recognize it. So yeah.
Saltburn is just nuts, anyways. But yeah.
Shout out to Saltburn. Yeah, when that comes out, check it out, people.
So I think it's out like this weekend or something, or like starting the LA screenings this weekend. So.
I think it's next week, but it's really soon.
Okay, yeah. I think they're starting previews early, so check it out listings, because it's a dope. Don't miss in the theater. It's a wild, especially if you can actually see it with an audience, because there's some fucking wild moments that like we got like I said, to see at Beyond Fest. People were into it though.
I kind of want to see it again with like a regular audience, because the Beyond Fest audience is like, this is wild shit. I want to see what like just a regular audience in Burbank is going to just say when
fucking walkouts.
Directed by Midge.
Yeah,
absolutely.
From Barbie. But yeah, no, I'm super excited about that. Let me pull up this one.
Nice.
That's the
Very
cats versus dogs posters. I liked how the poster for this like frames it like, whose side are you on? And then you watch the movie and the cats are like clearly the villains, like written, which makes sense. Like if you're gonna write a cats versus dogs movie, clearly the cats are the villains.
Sure.
But it's just funny. But yeah, I kind of struggled thinking of. I mean, part of it is like I was spending so much mental real estate this last week trying to figure out the wicked game when we get to that in a second. That took up like a lot of time. But I couldn't think of a lot of other films that kind of work like this, at least so directly. Like when you think about it, like two movies about two people so directly connected, so released close to each other. Like the close, like this isn't even real, but like the closest thing I could think of, and this would be obviously very different because their relationship is different, but the idea of like if there was like a Paul McCartney biopic about his time with the Beatles made, and then like a year and a half later there's like a John one or something. And it would be like interesting. I think in that the Paul one would be the more extravagant, and the John one would be the more quiet, muted one. But that would be like the closest I could think of.
I want to see the Ringo one.
Yeah, for
yelling at everything.
A series of 4 movies, like
autographs.
That would actually be an interesting project. Is like almost like a get 4 different directors. It's almost like Rashomon.
For each movie.
Yeah. You could maybe have the same actors, like as the 4 Beatles or something potentially. Or it could be different ones depending on perspective.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like I don't know. It depends on. Yeah.
Or what if you do it like the 4 Rooms vibe?
Yeah. It's different.
Essentially, I haven't done it in a while.
Like a little anthology.
Didn't the narrative run basically overall the whole thing, or was there each individual director had a completely different story?
It was like each one was a room in the hotel.
Okay.
Yeah. They might have been happening at the same time. They might not.
That had its own story. Got it. And then they had the cohesive element was just the rooms, right? Yeah. But so it'd be interesting to see something like that, where it almost switches 2 different directors. You get almost different styles that like change up the shifts of what your narrative beats are doing. Almost.
There's a show actually that I've wanted to check out. It's like a sitcom called Kevin Can Go Fuck Himself or something.
Kevin Can Fuck Himself.
Where it's like the show is shot. It's about this like relationship between this like sitcom couple, but all the stuff from the dude's point of view is shot like a 4 camera, like, you know, King of Queens sitcom, and all the stuff from her point of view is shot by like a more serious thriller because she like fucking hates him or whatever. And
that's cool.
She plans to kill him.
Yeah.
That's
that's dope.
Yeah.
That's
dope. All his scenes, it's an interesting show because like his scenes are all sitcom-y, and they actually like make it like a crappy sitcom where like but then you'll go to her scenes where it's just like this dark drama about like her stuck in this abusive relationship, and
like completely different lighting palettes, and like the color
like it's shot like
do they fuck with the aspect ratio at all, or just the color?
I don't think I think that it's all shot widescreen.
Cool,
it's probably like 16 by 9 or whatever.
But it sounds really interesting though. Like just as a concept, that's cool. Did like music changes in a sense? Because like I imagine they're like kind of more upbeat for the sitcom, and then more like that.
It's your typical sitcom.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. And then like more like that droney note, like the just kind of like you're pondering in
the like scenes that take place in the real world, because that's essentially like
got it.
It feels very like your typical cable want to be prestige drama.
Sure, yeah. A Law and Order, NCIS, and
more like your like Breaking Bad, Mad Men, but like not as good. But like dramas that are cable dramas that are going for that type of look.
That's wild. That's kind of cool. Like I would love to see.
It stars from Schitt's Creek, the daughter on Schitt's Creek. I can't think of her the name is an actress, but she's the wife in this series.
But cool. The only other the pairings that I could think of, the one I'll say for sure on the show is I was thinking about how interesting it is that Die Another Day released the same year, I think the same year as The Bourne Identity, which is just as someone obsessed with spy films, like what a weird what a total complete contrast And not even like going out, because it's not like Born Identity is like John le Carre or anything, but it's still like an action movie that's like just a completely different sort of tone from it. And my secret idea that I don't want to share with the world because I want to do it one day, and so I'm going to mute myself. You guys are going to hear it, but the stream won't hear it, is I want to do a double feature of I think that those two movies would be good because they're essentially the same. I just muted the words. They're like the same concept, but tonally at two complete opposite ends of the spectrum.
Very much so.
And
you've been talking about one of them for a little while now, so that makes sense.
Yeah, but I don't know if you guys had anything you guys thought about.
Go ahead.
Oh. I also kind of struggled. I came up with a pair that kind of fits the mold, but not exactly. I came up with Taxi Driver and Rolling Thunder. Taxi Driver is 75, 76. Rolling Thunder is 77. Both screenwritten by Paul Schrader. Taxi Driver, obviously Scorsese. I don't remember who directed Rolling Thunder. But they're both about a Vietnam veteran who has PTSD. Sort of gets obsessed with this like revenge arc or narrative in their mind, but the movie treats it very differently in each one. Then the reason I say it doesn't exactly fit the mold is because Schrader's intention for the screenplay of Rolling Thunder was different than what the movie actually ended up being. It was a little closer to just straight up Taxi Driver. So like with Taxi Driver, it's a much more like horrific, damning look at Travis Bickle, like he's horrifying.
Yeah.
And the William Devane character in Rolling Thunder is a lot like Travis Bickle. An insightful person watching the movie can see what Schrader is going for, but I'm sure it was like the studio or the producer or whomever was like, no, actually, we want to make it like cool that he's getting revenge on these people.
Yeah. Well, in a weird way, and it's a completely different. It's like a side off of that, but that's kind of, you're describing what happened to the Rambo franchise almost.
Oh yeah,
because like that first Rambo reminds me of the way you're talking about. Cause it's a different take on, but it was played so straight and played so from like you want to feel empathy toward to the Rambo, and then obviously 2 and 3 just are like fuck it. Blow it all up. But it's funny how that jumped in that same way.
Rolling Thunder always looks like they were like, I mean, it looks like a better version of this, but it kind of looks like they were like, let's do a Death Wish. Let's kind of take that idea and kind of combine it with, more sympathetic
it's not
in the seats.
Yeah, it's not without its merit either. It's an interesting film. Yeah. Tommy Lee Jones is also in it too, and he rocks in everything.
Absolutely. Like literally everything.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing that anytime that dude's on screen, I'm not like, oh no. Like I'm always stoked to see what he delivers.
Yeah.
Anyone else got any?
It's not quite what we had, but the one I thought of is just a double feature I like is The Big Short and 99 Homes. It's both about the housing crisis at the time. The reason I think it works is because The Big Short is essentially about like the institutional failure and how it happened. Where 99 Homes is very much a street level, and it's just like the people that it happened to, and not even necessarily like the people that did it, but just like the people who got caught up in it, the victims essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never even heard of 99 Homes, to be honest.
No.
It's with Michael Shannon and
Andrew Garfield. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And Laura Dern.
Wow.
That's right.
Oh, hell yeah. That was probably
It was a great cast.
Laura's that was during her like a banished period, I think, where she was like not getting the big studio roles because she'd been like.
This was like 2014.
Yeah. Oh shit! No, she should have been.
I mean, I think it was like probably like the start of her, like she was
resurgence.
Yeah, because I mean, like she essentially got the same esque role that she did in like Marriage Story, where like she's not the star of Marriage Story, but like she shows up and she kills it.
Yeah,
sure. That's
what you hire Laura Dern to do.
That's what you yeah, exactly. And she's amazing for it.
Yeah.
I hire Laura Dern for my movie so I can sit outside with a big picture of her face and a cowl.
Cowl. Yep.
You know what? You can do that for movies she's not in. Like you don't haven't directed her in. Just
No, I
support
can't.
work.
Yeah, like just general support. I would love to see that at all times.
Brian, you got any?
I didn't really think narratively like that. I was thinking more like tonally, like just two different jarring types. But Suspiria's obviously are just kind of so interesting that like they're two different takes on a story that just are so vastly different.
For sure.
And, stylistically, I love both of them, but I can also see like just circling back to the way I said the whole thing about styles and things. I can see how one would not be into the other. Especially if you love that initial thing. So that I think that was the biggest thing is the divisiveness that I felt with the two.
Well, especially I feel like in some ways, like each Suspiria, the ways that they are good are totally separate than the other.
Absolutely,
the original Suspiria is this kind of thriller, freak out, hypercolor, extravagant.
Music that's just banging.
And the remake is a much more toned down, character driven, almost like borderline drama at times. I mean, there's like maybe 30 minutes of that movie that's actually like upsetting of like this 2.5 hour long movie, and so much of the rest of it, I mean, upsetting is maybe the wrong word, but so much of the rest of it is just about like the interpersonal conflict between these characters.
I mean, and even the music, obviously Tom York's score is so much more subtle, and you're living in these real slow music box melodies through the whole film. And obviously like goblin shit was just like, we're going to destroy you at all times in this movie. That was the thing about Suspiria. Like, that's a movie that I think we probably have all had the first time you saw that, it was like first time on film, you appreciate that even more, the vivid, the contrast. Like, I'm colorblind, and like I really resonate with a lot of high contrast shit, and then Suspiria was one of those that just absolutely destroyed my brain for sure. But I love the remake for what it did for those contrasts.
Oh, for sure. I mean, the remake, I remember the remake, like, I never would in 100 years thought that the Suspiria remake was going to end with me crying. You know what I mean?
Oh, dude, I mean...
And
I remember I went, the first time I saw it was Beyond Fest did a special thing that year at the Dome, and I went for that and had a decent seat. And then like that following week it opened up, and that Friday Luca was there for a Q&A, and I was up close, and it wasn't, unfortunately, it should have been an absolute sold out crowd, but it was not. And I ended up getting to walk out with Luca, and just I stopped him, and he was literally one of the nicest human beings I've ever met in my entire life. And that alone is why I will support anything that guy does, because he's just the sweetest man ever. And he was actually genuinely, you could tell the Italian, the vibe of like truly humbled by me saying I'd seen it twice in as many weeks, like legit was a fan of that. Just a nice dude. And I don't know. I love that film for sure for many reasons.
Yeah.
Full zone.
It's great. Not since Eddie Murphy and The Nutty Professor has anyone had such a impactful multiple roles in a movie. But I think it's time to get to the good stuff. Where's this?
Feeling Chris Isaac in the air.
Yeah,
there it is.
Okay, Connor's Wicked Games, sponsored by Chris Isaac. Like Jigsaw every week, I like to play a little game. This week, Odd Couplings. I'm gonna read a clue. One long clue that indicates two movies whose names sound kind of fun when you say them together, and you guys have to guess the two movies. And so like the best example I can give, I'll give two examples of like movies that I couldn't find a pairing for. Is there's that Alex Garland movie Men from last year, and there's no movie that's just called like Women or The Women or something that's like well known enough at least. That would have been something, or like Up, and if there had been Down, I thought about doing Up and Downsizing, but that felt a little out of the. It didn't.
So it's gonna be in the title that like the opposite factor in is the title more than anything else.
Opposite, sort of, but sort of like a connection. Opposite is maybe not the right way to put it, but there's gonna be like when you say when you say the titles together, you'll be like, oh, okay, like even if it's not exact opposite. It's probably the closest.
Do you have a single example of what we're gonna actually be playing, or you're using all of them?
I'm using all of them because they're very good.
We'll figure this shit out. We'll do this.
Yeah.
It's Wicked Games. I mean, we're not supposed to have fun. It's Wicked Games.
Yeah.
Wicked Games.
But they're kind of formatted where at the beginning of each clue, I'm going to give kind of an overall topic that kind of indicates what the words are in the titles, and then I will give you'll get the years for each of the two movies, and then like one or two other little clues about the movies.
Okay.
And the way we're going to score it, I think, is basically whoever says the pair first gets the point. Because I think this is one of those things where when you figure it out, it's gonna be like, oh, of course, like that has to be what it is. And so whoever says the pairing of movies first gets the point. Let's start. Pets. In 2019, they leapt, galloped, and danced into our nightmares with grace typical of their kind. But in 1976, their counterparts went rabid.
Or we have to name both of those films you're talking about?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I know one of them, and so I mean, can I guess?
If you want to guess the name, I think if the answer I'm looking for is like the name of the two movies like together, and so if you know one, I think the other one might be easy to make a guess. But if you guys want to make a guess, you can make a guess.
Can you give the hint again?
Yeah, I'll give the full hint. Pets. In 2019, they leapt, galloped, and danced into our nightmares with grace typical of their kind. But in 1976, their counterparts went rabid.
Cats and Dogs.
Cats and Dogs is the right answer. It is the 2019 Cats and a kind of lesser-known 1970s horror film, Dogs.
I could not think of that.
I couldn't think of the name. Cats was a good one.
Yeah, I didn't know that there's a movie called Dogs, but because I figured Cats was one, okay, Dogs must be a movie title.
I get what you mean by the connecting of. Yeah, I get that. That makes sense.
Dogs is probably the least well-known movie out of all the movies referenced here. But I just thought that was too funny, and it was well known enough.
Good way of doing it.
All right, next one, Family. In 2009, Toby and Jake played the former, while in 1972, Brian De Palma directed the latter.
Brothers
and sisters.
I'm going to give you guys both half a point for that one, because you guys basically said it at the same time. if that's okay with y'all.
Yeah, I got the chance. That's right. I am playing against the champions, I believe. Yeah. You guys are pretty high up there on the...
Now that you guys got the game, and I will say this: they become more abstract and less like direct as this goes on.
Sure, okay.
A question for you, Connor, before you go to the next one: do we have to wait for you to finish speaking before we give our answer?
I will continue, but I mean, if you say it before I'm done, I'll count it. Yeah, rock and roll. If you can get it that early. All right. And also I'll say this, if like some of these have like a subtitle or like a gerund, like the blank, if you like leave out that, like, I don't give a shit. I'm going to give it to you. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not an asshole. This next one, Speak of the Devil, Shapes. Emma Watson and Tom Hanks had no corners in 2017. The same year, Ruben Östlund had 4 of them.
The Circle, the Square.
Yeah, the Circle and the Square.
Good on you.
I couldn't think of the Tom Hanks.
I couldn't think of the Circle either. Yeah. Good on you.
All right, next one. Kids and Parents. 2006 had figurative daddy Clive Owen. 1991 had literal daddy Steve Martin.
Children of Men, Father of the Bride.
Yep, that's it. Children of Men and Father of the Bride. That's
good on you.
Yeah,
that's a great one though. That's a good one.
I'm pretty proud of these. I think these are pretty fun. These are great.
These are good. Well thought out.
Also, these should all be double features. We should absolutely have Father of the Bride after Children of Men.
Honestly, I haven't seen Father of the Bride since I was a kid. I would love to see that juxtaposed with Children of Men. The bleakest fucking thing in the world next to
next to Children of Men.
Yeah, I'm curious which of these so far has been. That's probably the funniest double feature. I'm like looking. I'm looking through all of them, and there is, I would say, very few of them that actually would work very well together. There's actually one that kind of does, but like it's loose. We'll get to it. But next one, pronouns. In 2019, doppelgangers crawled out of the ground, but in 1954 it was giant ants.
Us, them.
Us and them. Yep. The Jordan Peele movie and the giant ants movie. Classic monster film. Next one. Domiciles. Stretch out in a 1977 Japanese freakout or shack up in a 1960 comedy classic.
Alex, I feel like this is your pocket.
I mean, I know the first one, obviously. I feel like we all know the first one.
Yeah.
1960 comedy. Oh, House in the Apartment.
House in the Apartment.
Fuck yeah.
Genius.
Nice,
Yeah, okay.
Nice.
That is indeed. Now that would be an interesting double feature.
That would also
Absolutely, yeah.
Emotions. Feeling bad in 2012 with Carl Urban. Feeling good with Todd Solondz in 1998.
Dread and Happiness.
Dread and Happiness. That is correct. The Judge Dredd remake and the Todd Solondz Happiness comedy drama movie. You're dominating this one.
I know. I love it. It's great. I wish my brain worked that way. You know, you're just like, boom.
Heated Stones. In 1972, Robert Redford stole a diamond. In 2003, Jude Law deserted the Civil War for Nicole Kidman.
The Hot Rock, Cold Mountain.
Yep, The Hot Rock and Cold Mountain.
Nice.
Another great double feature.
I was just like, I knew the Jude Law Nicole Kidman movie. I could not for the life of me think of the name of it.
The Robert Redford, the Hot Rock.
I was not familiar with that one. Yeah, but I knew.
Yeah. All right. We're blazing through these. Time travel. In 1985, a sci-fi favorite of Reagan's went one way, while in 1947, a noir favorite of Ebert's went the other. One of those is really obvious, obviously.
Can you say the year for the first one again?
Time travel. In 1985, a sci-fi favorite of Reagan's went one way, while in 1947, a noir favorite of Ebert's went the other. And thank you to... Will I be in the Ice Dad movie? I'm getting questions. The Kreitz Parent Trap. Thank you, Real in Durbo, for the bits. Cheers. I don't know about the Ice Dad movie. That's a different thing. They don't know about this. Anyways, any answers?
I don't know.
What's the other year again?
47.
1947.
No, I have no idea. Obviously, I know the first one.
Oh, no, don't say it. Back to the Future, Out of the Past.
Back to the Future and Out of the Past is indeed the answer to that one.
I could not think of that Out of the Past at all.
Yeah.
All right. German astrology. The upward swing starts silently in 1927. The downward swing comes noisily in 2022.
I don't know the 2022 movie, but I know the original one, so I'm just going to guess. Sunrise, Sunset.
Anybody else want to make guesses? I can either confirm nor deny any piece of that.
Not a guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Alex is killing this one.
Is that a full pass from everyone?
Yeah, it's full pass.
That is Sunrise, A Song of Two Humans, and Moonfall.
Oh, Moonfall. And would have had that shit down.
And it's German astrology because they're both German filmmakers.
How could we have forgotten about Moonfall?
Oh, I've definitely forgotten about Moonfall. I never saw it. I won't see it.
Shame on me for letting such a movie slip from my memory.
Even with our A-list, I was like, no, I'm gonna see this one real quick.
A-list isn't worth that much.
Yeah.
I'm kind of good, you know. I got my money's worth for the month.
All right. Color-coded jurisdictions. Kevin Smith invites us into a horror homeland in 2011. Jack Black and Colin Hanks are in a 2002 comedy Within.
What's the Kevin Smith movie?
Oh, shoot, that's funny. I know that one.
What's the year for the other one? The second one?
2002.
I know. Red State, Orange County.
That is Red State and Orange County.
I had Red State down.
Yeah, I knew Red State.
I did not have Orange County.
I forgot about Orange County.
Yep. Reply Guys. a professional negative in a 1962 spy film, followed by a casual positive in a 2008 comedy. Filling up my wine.
What?
It's like you timed that perfectly for this question.
Sorry, can you say it again?
Yeah. Reply Guys, a professional negative in a 1962 spy film, followed by a casual positive in a 2008 comedy.
I have no idea. Yeah.
I genuinely do not know what this one is.
Yeah.
This is Dr. No and Yes Man.
Oh, funny. That's funny. You really got me with that. The double negative. You got me with that when I was thinking about what that could be.
That's a great one. Yeah, that's
really good.
That's a great doubling feature. Yeah. I was trying to think of comedies that came out in 2008, and again, Yes Man.
Yeah.
Slipped my mind.
Yeah.
There might have been a period of time during those years I just dipped out. I think.
Just side note, the book that is based on, very good. It's a memoir, and it's worth reading.
Cool.
I really made it kind of fun. It's been a while since I've seen it though. But I get that movie mixed up with Fun with Dick and Jane. And when I think about Fun with Dick and Jane, I think about my friend's ticket to see it in the movie theater, where it
Fun
was
with Dick.
where it was cut off and it just said Fun with Dick.
Wasn't that one? Was one of those that had like some great marquees, the way like films were combined?
Yeah,
Remember that one?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Even recently, we just had Oppenheimer Bottoms the Nun.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
My favorite of those was there was when the good night reel bye the my favorite of those was my friend worked at a theater. This was after the tragedy in Aurora, I think, with The Dark Knight Rises, and the shooting there, and it was released around the same time as that movie with Aubrey Plaza and I think Mark Duplass. That was based on this
safety
not guaranteed.
Yeah.
And so the marquee was The Dark Knight Rises, safety not guaranteed.
Oh, that's a brutal one.
Yeah.
Yikes.
But we got about 5 more of these great little.
Oh Jesus! My God.
Okay.
Hell yeah. I spent a lot of time thinking about these. I really racked my brain. I Googled so many, like I was just like Googling adjectives like on IMDb, like looking at lists and stuff. Yeah. Weekend evening plans, starting with a football game like it's 2004, feeling sick the next day with John Travolta like it's 1977.
Can you say the first one again?
I'll just say the whole thing. Weekend evening plans, starting with a football game like it's 2004, feeling sick the next day with John Travolta like it's 1977.
Friday Night Lights, Saturday Night Fever.
Saturday Night Fever, that's right.
Yeah. I'm going to give you guys both half a point on that one because y'all got it at the same time.
Nice.
Yep. And you know what? I'll give everyone.
Honestly, don't give me. Don't pity me.
All right.
Okay. Oh, shit.
All right. All right.
I think Alex is dominating this entire board.
These next ones, I've got 3 more, and then I've got a special last one that's 4 movies and not just 2.
All right.
So, and these next 3 are maybe my favorite. Culinary quality. Top tier fast food in 1997. Gross out schlock in 1987.
Again with a hint.
Culinary quality. Top tier fast food in 1997. Gross out schlock in 1987.
Good Burger and the Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
That is not the correct answer.
Damn.
Any other guesses?
No.
Yeah, sorry.
That is, you were half right, Scott. It's
and Good Burgers, yeah.
Good Burger and Bad Taste. The
okay, yeah.
The Peter Jackson
Bad
movie.
Taste was 87. I thought it was later than that.
Ooh, I'm burping from this wine. All right. This might be
This is a random soundbite. We need to
burping from this wine. I was thinking about there's this like streamer drama going on with these people that I'm not even going to explain, but it involves this lady called Sniper Wolf who just like reacts to comments like really basically, and like there's this one where she keeps talking about like gooning with the boys, and somebody like made that like a soundbite, and gooning is like, it means a couple of things, but mostly it means like being addicted to masturbating. And I don't know if she meant that when she said it, and so I always think about that like soundbite, like gooning with the boys, like separate it out, and how funny it is. But that was a real ramp off detour from anything that's even remotely relevant. Let's do my favorite one of these. AM/PM. In 2008, the Nocturnal is represented by a masked vigilante, while in 1991, the Diurnal is represented by youth gangs.
What was the second year?
1991. And Diurnal, by the way, context clues, is the opposite of Nocturnal.
Hey, I mean, I feel like we all know the first one. So what's the opposite of that?
It's really funny.
I do not know what that's like.
Can you read the whole? Yeah, like
I'll read the whole clue again. AM/PM.
Yeah, okay.
In 2008, the Nocturnal is represented by a masked vigilante, while in 1991, the Diurnal is represented by youth gangs.
'91. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, the only one I'm thinking of, Dark Knight and then Boys in the Hood.
No. Is everyone passing?
Yeah.
I just can't think. Yeah, I just don't know the correlating ones.
It's The Dark Knight and A Brighter Summer Day.
Oh, no,
I've never seen A Brighter Summer Day. I've always meant to.
I'm not familiar with it.
It's like 4 hours, right?
It's 4 hours long, but it's great.
Yeah.
It's really good. It needs an intermission. Apparently, the guy was like, "It shouldn't have an intermission." Like, he should go fuck himself for that. But he should not. He should. Yeah.
He has another 4 hour movie. Yee is like 4 hours.
We'll talk about this maybe next week with Killers of the Flower Moon, but the length, I feel like there's the whole like length discourse. And I feel like I want to, at the very least, I'm not opposed to people making long movies, but let's bring back an intermission. Come on, guys. Like
Stanley Kubrick did it right. I mean, he started off with the thing. He's like, look, I'm going to give you a lot. Here's your intermission.
Yeah.
He got it.
All right, last normal one I have here is Company. The 1989 guest list consists specifically of Michael Gambon, Helen Mirren, a chef, and another. The 2005 guest list more broadly contains Miranda July, John Hawkes, and a bunch of others they're aware of.
I know the second one. What's the first one?
The specific part of that clue, or I'll do the whole clue one more time.
Just yeah.
Okay.
Company. The 1989 guest list consists specifically of Michael Gambon, Helen Mirren, a chef, and another. The 2005 guest list more broadly contains Miranda July, John Hawkes, and a bunch of others they're aware of.
These are just.
I don't know either one of these.
It's like you, me, and everyone we know, and all of us.
Any other guesses?
I think I can't think of the full title of it. It's that you're gonna, but it's like the cook and the thief.
Oh, I
can't think of
the wife and the lover or something.
Yes, yeah. I think that, and then what Scott said is what I would go.
I'm going to give it to Brian because that is correct. It is the cook, the thief, his wife and her lover, and me and you, and everyone we know.
Yeah.
And
I got your concept of the going for the longest title thing.
Yeah.
What these long ass title movies were.
And one was like specifics, you know what I mean? These names, and then one was like me and you and everyone we know.
Yeah, me, you, and everyone else.
That's great.
So this last one, there's 4 movie titles I'm looking for. And I got to be honest, right now, the main competition, Alex, you have gold no matter what. The main competition is if Brian, you can get this, you and Scott will share the silver. Whereas if one of the others gets it, you will get the bronze and he'll get the silver.
Because Brian, you got 1 point and I got 2 half points.
Yeah,
that's cool. Oh wow, I didn't know.
Yeah.
So if I had actually taken that pity half that you were going to give me, I'd actually be in the lead at 1.5 points.
It would be 1-2. So it's basically you're going to tie it up and potentially tie for a silver. Potentially.
Yeah. I'm just kidding. Like I'm literally in a game where there's 3 contestants.
Yeah.
Right.
The last one. So this is 4 movies. Here's the clue. The Fab Four: Keanu Reeves in 2014, Seth Rogen in 2011, Brendan Fraser in 1997, and Naomi Watts in 2002.
Oh shit, that's a lot of information.
Can you say it again?
Yeah.
The Fab Four: Keanu Reeves in 2014, Seth Rogen in 2011, Brendan Fraser in 1997, and Naomi Watts in 2002.
Yeah, I think I see what you're going for.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I got 2 of them. I think I got 3 of them.
It was like on that Big Brother show, like Alex in a competition, he's just got all the shit on like pieces, and I'm just like keep dropping them.
Sorry, Connor, can you say it one more time?
I'll do it one more time. The Fab Four: Keanu Reeves in 2014, Seth Rogen in 2011, Brendan Fraser in 1997, and Naomi Watts in 2002.
Okay. John Wick, Paul, Ringu, and George of the Jungle.
Dude.
I'll give it to you.
Nice.
It's just The Ring. It's the Naomi Watts version, but
right.
You got
Sounds
it 100
more like Ringo.
100%. It does. Yeah, it is.
Well done on that.
John Wick, Paul,
Beatles.
George of the
Well,
Jungle,
thank
and
you.
The Ring. It's the Beatles.
Okay.
That's so good. That's so good. Well done. And you know what's funny is we were talking earlier about maybe we weren't on air yet.
I
Something
brought
about
up the Beatles. I actually, you know what?
Early on, right?
I didn't realize
foreshadowing, if that's the case.
I didn't realize I did that, but I subconsciously I think I was doing that. I was thinking about the Beatles in that context of wanting to set that up. So yeah, it is. Alex got the gold, silver for Scott, Brian bronze, but I'm pretty proud. I'm pretty proud of those.
That was a good one. This is a good one.
Yeah,
I thought that was a pretty fun one. And we don't have Edwin here to do his little segment, but I will go ahead and do a little Frasier time. It's time to talk about the new episode of Frasier. This week, Frasier enters. What was this week? This week was the one. Sorry, it's been a minute. They air on Thursdays, and so I watched them almost a full week before.
How many are up, by the way?
5. This was the 5th episode,
okay.
And I don't write anything down.
I always want to dip in. Yeah, I want to dip into it. So.
They're pretty fun. This one really foregrounds the relationship between him and Alan, who is his coworker, his British tenured professor at Harvard, who is just slacking off and doesn't give a shit, and who doesn't have the fastidious aspects of Niles, but has the sort of intellectual equal sparring thing that relationship with Frasier. And the most recent episode kind of focuses on that relationship
That's cool.
to its benefit. He's probably, I think, generally speaking, I've seen some reception. He's been the most well received of the new characters. I think he's probably the best written of the new characters. And it was fun because it was like a good classic Frasier episode where it was like, oh, this guy's just fucking around, and then they get to the end and it's like he's just like, Frasier, I know you think I'm just a fuck up all the time, but quit being an asshole to me. Which is a classic Frasier emotional moment. But good episode. It keeps overall getting better. I'm excited to watch tomorrow night the 6th episode and the season finale of Loki, which has been fucking great. But yeah, anything else anyone else wants to talk about? I was going to throw out, I finished watching the Don Mancini's Chucky series of movies. I'm still planning on checking out the remake and the TV show, but what a weird good series. I don't know how many people.
Great, right? It's got good. It's not like the Nightmare on Elm where there's clear terrible ones.
Yeah.
Sorry if I'm offending, but you know what I mean. There's a bunch of those long run ones you can. This is decent.
Yeah, have you seen Through Cult, the most recent of the movies? Yeah. There's no for me. I mean, as someone who likes slashers and stuff, I would say there's no bad one. Even the ones that I would say are my least favorite, which I think would be 3 and Curse, are still solid, fun slasher movies. And then the ones that are the ones 1 and 2 are really good slasher movies. Bride and Seed are so weird. Seed especially is weird. Such a fucking weird movie. I don't there's so much doll cum in that movie. And it's clearly the biggest budget out of all of them. I think Al wrote this on Letterboxd, but he said something about I don't know who approved this movie getting made, but that is one of those movies where you're watching it and what the fuck. But then even
he took the Sam Raimi Evil Dead approach with it, basically.
Yeah, and then even Cult is really fun. The most recent one that kind of combines takes the elements of the first 3 and the next couple and combines them all and has all the characters meet up. It's almost like the Avengers of the Chucky series, unironically. And
I want to get into the series because that's how it's so fun and you can see how much they can do. But I'm almost, which one do you start with? There's an NBC one, and then there's a what is a Shudder that's got the other one?
I think it's
2
just
different series.
I think there's
USA.
I think it's just the one series, actually. Technically,
really?
It was the one series, and then it was the whatchamacallit, the movie. That was the conflict. It wasn't that there was two series, is that there was one company that owned the title Child's Play and like the general concept, and then he owned the character of Chucky essentially. And so that's why there was the 2019.
Yeah, that's why like Mark Hamill was the voice of Chucky in the Child's Play remake with Aubrey Plaza.
Right.
And I'll also say
I was just under the impression. I just thought, because it's strange that Shudder, because I'm pretty sure Shudder has it on there. That's strange that Universal they'd have it on both networks like that. But maybe that's just the way the streaming. I think that's why it confused me.
I think it's like a co-production between a couple of different networks. Like no company fully produces anything anymore.
No, that's exactly. It's so fucking nuts these days.
But also maybe the best in my maybe not the best, but one of my favorite examples of nepotism casting in Hollywood. I got to be honest. I don't know, but the lead of Curse and Cult is Fiona Dourif, Brad Dourif's daughter. With Brad Dourif as the voice of Chucky and also plays the physical Charles Lee Ray in flashbacks. And light spoilers for Curse and Cult, but Cult ends with her character Nika Pierce possessed by Chucky, so she's like doing an impression of her dad. And it's just like fun. Like I was like, this is pretty fun. Like this is a case where like, you know what, nepotism, you could stay right here. Like this is great. Like this is what nepotism is for. It's seeing a charming moment where like an actress gets to like impersonate her dad's most famous role in a movie and do really well at it. Honestly, she's really good in them.
Nice.
All right.
So yeah, if anyone else has anything else they've been into recently.
I've just been watching a lot of horror movies. Like I really kind of kept the October feel going, and I've been sort of doing that, watching Shudder stuff. Like I watched Influencer, and it was a cool take on just the influencer culture. And you're hearing that word, and you're like, oh God, what terrible thing could this be? Especially the amount of them that have come out. But Shudder really did like an interesting take on it, and then just what happens to like the idea of who you follow and like how it can turn, and these influencers to go out and just shoot their world. It's hard to explain without really giving a lot away, but it's really worth checking out. Shudder's got some bangers, old and new. I've been really impressed with like, I usually in the last few years since they started, they kind of only get it going around Halloween time. But I'm going to keep it because it's actually worth. They got a lot of good stuff. All the Saw movies are on right now. It's like little things like that. If I not caught up on them, there's plenty of stuff on it.
Yeah, I will say it was funny because I was borrowing your Peacock account, Brian, and then like the day after Halloween, all of the Chucky sequels moved to Tubi, and are all on.
Oh, that's funny.
Chucky 2 through 7 is all Child's Play 2 through Cult of Chucky is all on Tubi right now.
Wild. And it's crazy the way these licenses have been thrown around, like all over these platforms. It's just
and Shudder
you don't see it.
Had one of my favorite, I think, underseen horror movies from last year, Speak No Evil, which was,
that was really good.
Yeah.
And
rough watch.
Sorry, but speaking of When Evil Lurks, holy shit, is that a movie? Please see that.
I've heard good things.
It is just like all I can say about it is it's just mean as fuck. And I'm absolutely here for the entire thing. Like they just do things that you're like it takes a minute. It's one of those movies that moves a little slow. You're kind of like, what's this narrative doing? And it just hits you with things you're like, I don't know, this is fucking nuts. And I loved it, and it's pretty brutal in all its right ways. It's on Shudder. Definitely check it out.
Yeah, I've heard good things about that one.
Yeah, same.
He also did another film called Terrified. I can't think of its director's name right now, but he did Terrified, which I guess is supposed to be another banger that Shudder did as well. So,
Alex, you got anything?
I haven't been watching so many movies lately because I've been in the booth training at the Vista every day.
Nice. Let's give that a hold on.
That's gonna be my nightcap talk about for sure.
But yeah, I guess I'll plug the Vista. I mean, if the Tarantino shows for True Romance are both sold out already, but we have a lot of other cool stuff that we're gonna do coming up this year and through the end of the year. I can't say what, but
Sure, come on.
Please do come. Yeah, please do come back to the Vista. It's going to be fun. The space is looking fantastic.
Can't wait to see that 35 millimeter print of Wonka in a couple of weeks.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's an exciting time, and we're all excited to have you all back with us. Not back, like I've been there the whole time, but come on.
Yeah.
You've been sitting there camping out. You're like, I'm not moving.
Yeah.
I am here.
But yeah, I want to thank Brian here for our outro song. I want to say, if you like the show, please give it a like and share it with your friends share it with your caseworker whenever you have to see them. Share it with your parole officer. Share it with your sponsor. And
drug dealer,
yeah.
For the opposite, you got time to kill the Best Buy
door to door to let other people know you're a registered sex offender. Also, mention, hey,
check out this show.
And if you like movie streams,
when you mug somebody, leave them like a little card, like a little link,
a QR code.
Yeah.
We're on Instagram and TikTok, CinemaCurse666. And next week, it's the Haunted Mansion special. I wonder when I'm going to retire this joke. But no, for real, we're talking about, I'm calling the episode Wink Killer New Cinema. And we're talking about Killers of the Flower Moon, the new Scorsese epic, and David Fincher's The Killer. And that'll be fun, and just general. I know specifically I want to talk about both Anatomy of a Fall and The Holdovers, as well as great movies that I've seen recently, and possibly even Dream Scenario, which I'm seeing this weekend. And I'm
Dream Scenario,
very excited about. That's next week, and thanks.
And then just real quick. Vista opening for LA people, get that, but also Egyptian Theater opens this weekend, and the American Cinematheque owns the weekends, so go be all over the Egyptian on the weekends.
Definitely.
Every weekend, starting this weekend.
Definitely. And hey, if you don't live in LA, find your local theater and
go support it.
It and be
even
cool.
If it's illegal, even if it's a Cinemark.
Yeah.
Go.
Honestly, I'd rather keep those doors open than none at all. So absolutely.
Yeah. Hey, and why don't we? Hey, and while we're at it, why don't we get a fucking ceasefire up in this bitch? Let's fucking while we're asking for things, he's getting a fucking ceasefire up in this motherfucker.
Simple request.
But yeah, thank you guys for joining, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye bye. Goodbye, citizens.
Bye.